Today we will be doing chapter 2 from the First Flight textbook. The name of the chapter is Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, written by Nelson R. Mandela. Let me tell you something about the author. Nelson Mandela was a great hero who gave freedom to the blacks in South Africa. He was born on 18th July 1918 in the village of Mvizo in Umtata, then a part of South Africa's Cape Province. He fought against the apartheid regime of South Africa, which believed in racialism. He spent more than 30 years in the South Africa's prisons. He became the first black president of South Africa when his party came to power in the democratic elections in 1994. This passage forms a part of the autobiography of Nelson Mandela titled Long Walk to Freedom. It is a saga of the glorious struggle that the blacks of South Africa waged against the apartheid regime to gain freedom. The theme of the story is the lesson pays tribute to those black heroes and patriots who waged a relentless struggle against the apartheid or the racist regime of South Africa. Here we find a description of the inauguration ceremony held in the Union buildings attended by politicians and dignitaries from more than 140 countries. Nelson Mandela gives a message of peace and unity of mankind. He foresees a new regime which will be based on the equality of men and women. He hopes that in the new regime there will be no exploitation of man by man. There will be no room for racialism and segregation in the new order. Let us move towards the summary of the chapter. It was 10th May 1994. The day was bright and clear. The inauguration ceremony of the first non-racial government was held at the lovely amphitheatre in the Union buildings in Pretoria. It was the largest gathering of international leaders on the South African soil. Politicians and dignitaries from more than 140 countries attended the ceremony. First of all, Mr. de Klerk was sworn in as the second deputy president. Then, Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as the first deputy president. Then came Mandela's turn. He was sworn in as the first black president of South Africa. Mandela spoke how for decades South Africa was the seat of white supremacy. Now the presence of all people confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. The blacks who were considered as outlaws not so long ago were hosting the nations of the world on their soil. Their victory over apartheid was a common victory for justice, peace and human dignity. Political freedom had been won. Now they would work hard to liberate all their people from the bondage of poverty, deprivation and diseases. Never would South Africa again face the oppression of one by another. There was a spectacular display of jets. South African jets and helicopters rode in perfect formation over them in the sky. It was also a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy and to the new government. Then, two national anthems were played. Nelson Mandela was overwhelmed with a sense of history. A few years after the Anglo-Boer War, apartheid was introduced in South Africa. The society based on racial discrimination was the harshest and most inhuman society in the world. Now, a new system based on the equality of all men, regardless of their color and race, had replaced the old and cruel system. Apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in the people. The decades of exploitation and oppression of the black produced heroes like Thambos, Sizzlers and others. These black heroes were men of extraordinary courage, wisdom and generosity. The greatest wealth of South Africa was not in its minerals and diamonds, but in men of such great character. Nelson Mandela learned the meaning of courage from such brave comrades. Courage is the victory over fear. These comrades were ready to risk and sacrifice their lives for an idea, the idea of freedom and equality. Even in the darkest prisons, their hopes and faith were not broken. They never allowed the flame of struggle to be extinguished. Nelson Mandela thought that every man had twin obligations. He has a duty towards his wife and children and an obligation to the people and country. In South Africa, it was impossible for blacks like him to fulfill both those obligations. If any black tried to live a free human life, he was punished and isolated. He was forced to live an isolated life, away from his family. He was forced to live a life of rebellion and secrecy. Mandela realized that not only was he deprived of freedom, but his brothers and sisters were also deprived of freedom. That is why he joined the African National Congress, ANC. It was his desire for the freedom of his people and their self-respect that totally transformed him from a weak young man to a bold one. A law-abiding lawyer was forced to become an outlaw. He realized that freedom is indivisible. He knew that the oppressed must be liberated. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. Both of them must be liberated. Hope you all understood the summary of the lesson. Thank you.